Hello everyone, this is Dr. K and I'm coming to you to discuss the IT423 Module 5 lab, which is building a basic IoT device. This is our first opportunity to look at Node-RED, which is a visual programming environment, and we will be leveraging several different things throughout this project or this little lab. And the instructions need a little assistance. The first thing I'm going to tell you is you have to read and watch all of the material at the beginning of the chapter. If you don't do that, you will not be successful. And that is the first thing I'm going to tell you if you ask me a question is, or I'm going to ask you, did you watch all those and complete all those videos, because that will help you in this process. So what we're doing is we're looking at this particular lab, and we're going to go to our uCertify account. We're going to set up Node-RED, which I've actually already done, but I'll show you what you need to do. And then I'm going to show you some hints and tricks to make sure that you complete this lab properly. So when you click on the rubric, you come over here and it gives you some background to this. You can read that. I'm not going to read it to you. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to say we're going to start right here. After launching the Node-RED environment, these are the things we're going to do. We'll end up with an image that looks something like this. I'm actually I've set it up a little bit differently so it's easier to see. And these are the items that you're going to include in your document when you submit them. So I want you to start at the top. Again, read all the material, watch the videos, and then read through this rubric and make sure you understand at least the concepts of what you'll be doing. And then we'll actually go through the video here and show you the steps that will help you complete it. Okay, deep breath. Let's go ahead. I'm going to maximize my uCertify account. And you're going to go to the lab area and you're going to click on the Debian Node-RED sandbox. What that's going to do is start a virtual machine for you, and it's going to take you over to a screen that looks something like this. And this is your starting point. This is your virtual Linux machine. What you'll need to do is you need to double click your Node-RED icon here, which I have already done. And so it's going to bring you into a screen that looks like this. It'll say Flow 1. That's where I have all my stuff. And it should look something like this. The first thing that you're going to have to do, I've already done it, but you're going to go to the menu here. You're going to go to Manage Palette. Click on Manage Palette. Go to Install. You're going to search SQLite, because that is the database that we're going to use. We'll extend that. You're going to click, you can see it's installed already, but you're going to click the Install button. You can close the screen then. It generally takes less than a minute, and it will install that SQLite plugin for you and allow you to access the SQLite functions that we don't have currently in this particular setup. So then, after you've watched those videos at the beginning of the chapter, you're going to understand the different things that you can do, this visual environment, and you're going to drag and drop. So there's an inject node, a debug mode, and the inject is where you start, the debug is where you end, and there are all sorts of visual things that you can include in the middle. One thing that we'll scroll down and you can see storage. We need that SQLite. So you can see what I'm doing is just dragging and dropping these items, and that allows you to put those visual programming flow pieces into your screen, and then to connect flows. And I'm going very fast. You should have watched the videos. And I'm making some connections. So what we're doing is we're injecting something or asking the system to do something with the inject option. In this case, what we're doing is we're going ahead and working with a database, and then we're looking at the output or trying to figure out what happened through that process. That's the short of it. If you double click each of these items, they will all have options for you to modify. I will show you what I've done to make the lab work in this environment, but each of them are slightly different. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over. Once you understand and how to get to this environment, these are the pieces that you're going to start using to put together to answer. Let's just go back over here real quick to create and answer these or follow these directions. Excuse me. So we're going to create a test database. We're going to do a basic table within that database. So pretend like we're storing data from an IoT device. And then we're going to insert some data. So think of this as a baby step. We're just getting started with the IoT devices, and we've got to have a place to store our data, and we've got to figure out a way that we can actually put the data into the database. Once we've created all that and inserted the data, we'll do these next steps. You create a write flow, a read flow, and then you're going to capture the output when we're done. So what I've done, and we're going to let my screen adjust here, is I'm going to close this and actually get rid of it because I don't want that flow anymore. So you can see this looks a little different than the sample that was given in the assignment. It does exactly the same thing. The reason I did it this way is it's a little easier for you to see and understand and grasp. You can do this in one connection, or you can do this in separate connections like I have. It does exactly the same thing. So what we're doing is we're injecting, asking the system to do something here. We're interacting with the database in this middle part, and these are actually all interacting with the same database. So even though it looks like it's multiple, it's actually just writing and reading to the same database. And then we're going to be able to see the output for each of these commands. And I've added one extra piece. My create table actually goes out and deletes the existing table so that I can repeat this as many times as I need to in this video. Yours would not need to do that. But let's just walk through this process real quick. And so the first thing that you want to do is once you put your SQLite database in, is double click that, and it's going to ask you some questions. And the nice thing about SQLite is the fact that it's very easy to work with, and will actually create itself in this environment. So all you need to do is enter what name you want to use for the database. In this case, I used testDB. It does not matter, but I suggest keeping it simple. It will ask you to insert or create it, and then you say done. And that's all there is to it. You've just created a database. So this environment makes this very simple. And you can see that this would have a little orange triangle, meaning there's a problem up here, and a little blue indicator, meaning that it's changed. To get rid of that, you would deploy and essentially publish those changes. And so what we did there, just by double clicking on that, creating the database, saying done, is we've created the database that we're going to interact with this particular assignment. So the way I created these is I would grab an inject option, and this is the default, is a timestamp. And then I would double click that and I would make some changes to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. So I created this inject, and I guess that's a bad word to pick, but this is my create table. So if you notice, the first option in the instructions was we needed to create a table. So what I've done here is that inject node is I changed the name so it's something readable and I can understand. The message topic, which gets passed from flow to flow, piece to piece, is the SQL object that I want to execute, and it's going, and then we say done. That's all we have to do. It's very simple, but you need to be very careful as you're typing in this command, because that SQL command needs to be correct. So you can see all I did was really just follow the directions, inserted that, and created that object. So what happens here is I do a create table command, so I execute that SQL command. I send it to the database executes that, and then sends the results out to my debug command. And you can see what happens here, and you'll need to click on the little debug message here. So let's step back. So what we've done, and this is how you would start no matter what, is you would start with your create table. You would have your database created, and you're going to end with your debug command, and you connect each of those together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to inject this. Great example. Okay, so I made some changes. You can see the little blue indicator. I need to deploy first, just so that it knows that it's got the most up-to-date versions of everything. I'm going to inject that node, and you could see that it ran here, and because this is an empty set, means that it ran correctly. If it didn't run correctly, there would be an error message. But remember, working with databases, that sometimes it just comes back and says, okay. Well, that's essentially what this is doing, is it's coming back and saying, okay, the SQL ran. So it created the table, interacted with the database, we saw the results. So the same thing's going to happen here with our insert. Now I broke these out into two different pieces so that you can see you can have multiple pieces interacting with it. This is not required. This is just for me to show you an option. But on this one, on the insert command, is I created or changed the name to insert22 because that's the value that we're inserting. And you can see I put the SQL command in to insert that data. Now let's step back and drop one of these in here. You can see two different things here when you create a new one. The payload is one variable that's created for you, and you can leave that alone. That's totally fine. It does not need to be there, but it also doesn't hurt anything. It just puts a timestamp on the execution. The topic is the one that we're using that gets passed from field to field and allows you to send that SQL command to the next piece. Now we're doing SQL. There are a whole lot of other options. We're just looking at one little bit of the power of this tool. But let's delete that. So now we're watching over here. We're going to do our insert command. Let's click on him so we know we're watching and say insert. Okay, so according to this, it inserted that value. No error messages. Life is all good. Let's do our insert 44. Same thing. Now I've run this several times, and the way I have mine set up is I did it so that it would continue without error messages. So we'll probably have multiple versions of that. And then for my read, my query, let's look at that. It's very simple. We have a select command, and we're asking it to give us everything that's in the database table called basic. So I'm going to run it or inject it. Again, it thinks I changed something, so we're going to deploy it, and let's inject it. Good example. So now you can see that it came back with objects, and these are JSON objects. And you can see we can drill down, and since I've run this multiple times with the same data, it will show multiple objects. So what we've done here is very quickly is created a table, interacted with the database, looked at our output, we've inserted data, looked at the output to confirm that the operation was successful. Then we actually read from the database, interacted with that, and then we were able to see all the data from that particular function. So that, in a nutshell, is what you're doing throughout this lab, is you're creating these types of objects and doing these types of interactions with a SQL-like database. And then we're going to go back real quick. Let me go back over here. So we've created the test database, we've inserted the data, we created a write flow, so we have a couple of those. We have a read flow. We are now ready to capture our output. So when you get ready to actually insert or create your document, let's go back. There's a couple things. You want to use your snipping tool. So I would grab this, say new, and I would snip a copy of that. So you can see it almost matches perfectly with everything over here. It's a little different layout, but it shows your flows and it shows your output that it actually was successful. So that is one piece that you're going to do. You also have the ability to export your flow. So these flows are essentially this series of items that execute together. That's the best way I can describe a flow. We can export those so that we can save it for later. This environment with uCertify does not stay. It's volatile, so the next time you log in, your information will not be there. So what you need to do is you need to go ahead and export the data. So we're going to click on the little hamburger menu. We're going to say export. And actually what I want to do is go over here, Control A, export. Current flow. And oh, actually, let's go to JSON. So you can see that this creates just an array of items that gives the system all the information that it needs. So we're going to download that JSON file, and it automatically creates a flow.json file for you on the system. Now comes the fun part. So because of this virtual environment and the fact that we're logging into uCertify, working through a virtual environment through Node-RED, you can see how that gets a little convoluted. And there's no direct way for us to send or receive files, at least directly like we would with any other system, because there's multiple levels in between. So you do have they've created this little upload my work option for you. And you could see, I'm going to click over here and show evidence. So if I wanted to send a file to uCertify, I would upload it as evidence. I would come over here and I would refresh. It shows that information here. You can see that it matches these files, and then I can click download, and what's happening is I'm downloading that file to the virtual machine in uCertify. And the opposite is also true. So I can do upload from my computer. I can do downloads and flows. You can look at the time frame, and that's the one I created. I can say open. And it uploaded that to this particular screen over here, which is connected to this one over here. And you can see the date changed on this one, and then I would download it, and I can download that JSON file to my machine. Let's see what that's going to open. So it opened my visual editor, and you could see, oops, it's the file that we just created, that flow, and has the timestamps, all of the information that we just created. So this is how you save your work. So when you're finished, you have your activity done, and you want to save your file, you have to upload it on UCertify's computer, the virtual side. You're going to bring it over, it'll show up over here, and then you're going to download it to your machine, and that is what you're going to put into the document. So you're going to export that as a JSON file. You're going to copy and paste that. I suggest just opening it with, let's see, let me click on this again. It's probably this one. I really don't want to edit Notepad. That's what I want. There we go. Sorry about that. Let's go to this one. It's all the same. So here is my JSON. You can cut and paste this into your document that you're going to submit into Brightspace. So what you should do is you should have screenshots, your JSON file, and make sure that it shows all of this information so that I can see that you created all the pieces over here that were required as part of the assignment, that you actually got it to work, and that you have the output that was expected, and your JSON. That's what we're looking for in this particular assignment. And you can see here, the grading rubric is what I have to go by. Let me go over here and keep extending that just for a second. Let me just show you this. So when you get ready to submit this, I am going to grade it by this rubric. And so, did you create the database tables? Yes, no, maybe. That's kind of what this is. Yes, maybe, no. Table fields, same thing. You write the data, you read the data, you exported the flow. This one's pretty straightforward. There's not a whole lot of options here, but that's what's going to be graded. So those are the pieces that you need to make sure that you include in your assignment. So hopefully this will help you along. This is a little bit of a challenge this week because most of us have not used Node-RED before, but I think once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy and you'll hopefully enjoy it. I'm going to go ahead. If you have questions along the way, please feel free to reach out to me. But this video, I'm going to publish it and make it available, and hopefully this will help you complete the Module 5 lab this week. And if not, please give me a shout and I'll do my best to help out. Thanks.